Welcome to SuperTalk, the podcast that scratches your superhero itch. Just two suburban dads nerding out over superhero stuff on the small screen and the big. Buckle up, people. Enjoy the ride.
Welcome to SuperTalk, the weekly podcast dedicated to news and reviews of comic book media on the big and small screen. This is episode 133. I'm your host, Brian Professor Pettis, and with me, as always, my illustrious co-host, Titanium Tony Estrella. Titanium.
Professor, how are you, sir?
Good. How you guys had a really good Christmas holiday?
Nice Christmas. Mom turned 80 on Christmas Day.
Holy
Joy.
smokes.
Her name's Joy, Christmas baby. And then my little brother, I don't even want to tell you how old he is, but he turned 50. So we had an 80 and a 50-year-old birthday party on Christmas. It was a lot of fun. Tenderloin turned out spectacular.
Oh, that's awesome.
Had the horseradish sauce from ICC. Oh
Yeah.
It made all the difference in the world.
Horseradish sauce, it's one of those things that I forget how much I like it until I have it again.
Correct.
Like, when you go get a prime rib or something, you're like, oh yeah, I could use some horseradish. And they were like, oh my gosh, I love horseradish. Yeah. It gives you that, like, if you've got sinus issues, you won't have sinus issues anymore after.
But just a really good tender piece of meat with a little horseradish sauce on it is spectacular.
Yeah, it's really good.
It was a game changer.
Yeah. So, I did a little bit of traveling, and so you were doing a podcast a little bit later than normal.
Playing golf down there in Florida. How's the weather?
It was, mid 70s all week.
Nice.
So yeah, it poured rain all day Christmas Day, which was like perfect because
you wanted to be inside anyway.
Well, we were indoors, we're doing Christmas and, watching football and, not really much else to do on Christmas. And so, we're like, oh, well, I guess we got to sit here and watch all the football games. Right. So yeah, but otherwise it was beautiful down there. So, my other side of the family's going down there, this week, and it was going to drop into like the mid 60s. I'm like, man, well, we lucked out. So
here we go. Yeah. Let's get rolling, Professor. Big show today.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Lots been happening the last few days, and we'll get into all of it. First, we want to thank our patrons. These are listeners that help support SuperTalk Podcast directly. If you really want to help us out, just join the patronship, patreon.com/SuperTalk. You donate $1. That's it. $1 each episode. It's really not a big commitment from you, but we really appreciate it. So supertalk.com, patreon.com/SuperTalk. Let's get into the reviews, and I will apologize to you, and you and I have already talked about this, but I have not seen Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom as of yet, and I think that's somewhat telling and indicative of how well this movie's doing in the theaters, that I don't feel compelled to go see it. I know you saw it opening night.
Yeah.
I kind of got your first impressions, but I have not yet been, and I really don't feel like I'm missing much.
I went with Greg Vire. We had a good time. It was Aquaman 2.
So I know you have more to say about it than just that, but I mean, did your initial impressions, what you told me was it's a little bit all over the place and the ending was a little hokey, but it was a decent movie.
It was entertaining. You and I talk about movies sometimes that we don't really like, but some movies are still entertaining, even though they're kind of a mess.
Right.
And it was Arthur, him trying to, several years forward from the last movie. It was, can I get into spoilers?
Oh yeah,
spoilers?
I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's him trying to manage being the king of Atlantis and also his life on land. He's married to Mira, and they have a son, a small child, and they live at the lighthouse with his father and things like that. Amber Heard is in this movie a lot more than I thought she would.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was very surprised.
That was one of the things that you and I were curious about, like how much of her did they cut out?
More than I thought, but you could definitely see the reshoots in several areas.
Right, but you could tell they definitely diminished her involvement in the film in the trailers. Like she was barely, if I don't even remember her seeing her in the trailer. So they're obviously not using her to market the film.
It was really wonky in the beginning because they cut her out so much, I think. And in the middle and the ending, I think they had to bring her in because her baby was involved and things like that. So Just interesting. Another thing I'm gonna get into the things I didn't like about it. That was one of them. Obvious story, plot, very jumpy. The other thing I didn't like about it was King Arthur, or King of Atlantis, has a council that he has to answer to, like some other Atlanteans and some other
It's the other
marine
six
life.
kingdoms. It's the heads of the other kingdoms.
Not
Right?
even that. I think it's just like board members. I mean, it was really
Yeah.
weird, and that was
And
kind
he
of a
felt
clash with him.
and he was somewhat hamstrung by them, and you felt
Right, like
why would the king of Atlantis be hamstrung by a board
why would he
member?
have to check with them to do what he wanted? And that was a big conflict in the story, that he wasn't able to do what he wanted to do because he had this board kind of regulating him, which is kind of weird to me. It was a weird choice. So those kind of things. I think there were some definite issues with the story. It was almost like, okay, are you going to be a bro story, like a family story, or are you going to be like a brother kind of react, like
So his brother
redemption?
Orm was in the movie, right? So he's a
Absolutely.
big part of it.
Yeah, and Orm actually stole the show a lot, and I thought he was one of the best parts of it.
Okay.
So it was kind of like a buddy film, like a brother buddy film. It was kind of like a family film, like him balancing the kingdom and the family. And then there was this weird overlay of this climate, like climate change and Earth.
And the effects on the climate change having on the oceans and everything else.
Correct.
Right?
And the Earth itself, and actually the main villain was creating a false superheated climate that was melting the ice caps and things like that.
So they were blaming climate change on the real villain of the movie.
No, he was actually they have this stuff called Corrigan.
It's the green stuff.
The green stuff, and they were putting it into the atmosphere to superheat the Earth so that the ice caps would melt and it would all be ocean. So that was like a overlaying thing, which was, so it was really weird. I was like, pick one, because they were both very strong, and the main story was him, kind of finding out that there's this lost kingdom of Necris, and there was the brother of Atlan, the main guy, the previous king. His brother developed another trident, the black trident, out of black magic, and it was pure evil, and it turned his kingdom and him into creatures. And so that whole thing was fascinating. And James,
Jimmy Woo,
James Waugh,
James Woo,
the director. He obviously has He obviously has some kind of horror background, and that was fascinating. Like, that was really cool, the way he played with shots. I mean, at one point, this creature drags somebody into the abyss, this darkness, and it was kind of like scary. I thought that was really good. They should have stuck with one of these. So when I say that,
they were like horror elements of the movie that were intriguing, but they didn't stick with it enough.
Correct. So, they went back to family. They went back to the buddy and the comedy.
So they have a buddy comedy thing, and then they'll go to a horror scene. They'll go back to the buddy comedy thing, and then to a horror scene. It was kind of...
Don't get me wrong. What you're reading about this movie and the way it performed in the box office is no reflection on the movie, as far as I'm concerned. I thought it was pretty good. I don't understand how the first one made $1 billion.
Right.
I don't understand how the first one made $1 billion and this didn't do very well. I mean, it was that.
Yeah.
I think Amber Heard and the choppiness of the cuts had a lot to do with it. I think the placement of this movie being pushed back past The Flash also was a little wonky. It almost felt like this movie was made, and it was, before The Flash, which would make a lot of sense.
It was made to be in the timeline before The Flash, yeah.
No mention of timeline, which was great. No mention of other universes or anything like that, which was phenomenal. Again, Black Manta, unreal.
So you really enjoyed their treatment of him.
He was great. Upgraded costume, upgraded powers. He gets the black trident with all kinds of, and he's almost possessed by this king Cordex, which was the brother who turned evil using black magic. And then his whole thing is to get this the green goo and destroy the
but
world.
all Black Manta wanted to do was kill Aquaman, right?
Well, that's what was promised to him. That's why he let him possess him, which was kind of cool. Great storyline. I thought the brother between Orm and Aquaman was unbelievable. I thought that was great. So again, problems.
So there were elements of the movie you really enjoyed.
Yeah.
There were action sequences and action scenes and special effects were pretty decent, right?
Decent.
Yeah.
The special effects were great. I thought. I mean, very real. I mean, he's built, obviously, the director has built this tremendous world under there. The neon got a little much sometimes.
Yeah.
And Greg Vire made a very good point. It's like, how did Black Manta, cool Black Manta sub, very cool, that he gets this old technology from the Lost Kingdom that he implements and uses. Very cool. How does he just fly into Atlantis and wreak havoc? That was one of the things.
Nobody would see him coming.
Not just, they saw him coming. They actually attacked him. He blew up the bridge with his laser eyes, and then he took out one of the cannons and kind of went over instead of through the tunnel. I was like, okay, that's too easy. Like, that didn't make sense to me. And I kind of think that was some scenes that they cut out from Amber Heard's scenes, and they needed to fill in something. So that was a little wonky.
And I think it seems like to me, I mean, this movie was delayed 1.5 years, right? I mean, this movie was supposed to come out last summer and was then pushed to last December, and then didn't want to fight with Avatar, so it got pushed to this December.
Yeah.
And you figure it was in a pretty good space with Dune vacating the Christmas holiday movie season, to moving into the first part of the year because of the actor strike and everything else, figuring they were in a good position.
Well, you and I talked about it in previous podcasts and previous shows that we felt like there was really nothing going up against it.
But
the color
like
purple.
My family's going to a movie tonight, and they had zero interest in going to this.
Yeah,
movie. They're like, hey, we're going to go see the wrestling movie, or we're going to go see the
Iron Claw,
or you were going to go see the movie about the boaters, the guys in the boat or whatever it is,
right.
And I'm like, okay. Well,
I think Iron Claw is spectacular. It's getting grave reviews. I think it's done, but not a lot of competition for that opening weekend. It was Christmas. I get it. People are busy, but another highlight for me was Randall Park plays the character Dr. Shin, who is kind of strong-armed by Black Manta into doing and creating this technology for him. But at the end, he has kind of a redemption arc, which is kind of cool. But Randall Park, I love him. Absolutely phenomenal. He's great in it. Black Manta, the actor, I'm not even going to try his name because I'll butcher it, but he was phenomenal in it. And then Wilson, the ocean master, or his brother Orm, great. I thought that connection was absolutely fun. You know who fell short for me on this? Is Jason Momoa. Really corny. Wore these big skull rings, like he was very bizarre.
Too much, yeah.
It was too much. It was almost like he brought too much of his persona into this movie. It was almost like Jason Momoa was in this movie more than Aquaman was. It
was more like Jason Momoa was in the movie versus Jason Momoa playing Arthur Curry.
Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well,
when you see it, you'll get what I mean.
Yeah, it's kind of the feedback of like Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn plays the same character in every movie. Yeah, he plays himself in every movie.
Correct.
Right? He doesn't act. He's just playing himself in every movie. And you could say that about, Matthew McConaughey. He's the same guy in every movie. Yeah, well, it's Matthew McConaughey just playing himself, but I think, look, Jason Momoa's background, he's not a, classically trained actor. He just happens to be a really good looking athletic dude who's,
can act.
Yeah.
He's not bad.
Yeah, he's not bad.
He's got some chops.
But I think this movie, the delays, the reshoots, its placement, and I think the end of the DCEU preceding this substantially. I mean, we heard about the end of the DCEU at, this time last year when James Gunn made his announcements, or when James Gunn got hired. And it's like, I think that all had an effect on this.
Yeah.
The first Aquaman movie came at a time where there was momentum for him, for the character.
Yep.
Everyone wanted to see him play this character and get his own movie.
Agreed.
And we loved the first Aquaman movie. I thought it was really, really well done. But I think this being the last DCEU movie with no future for this character, no future for this actor as this character, does take away from it a little bit.
Obviously, because big fans, like big time fans, did not show up for it.
Right.
And the ending of the movie, I don't want to spoil it for you. I kind of wanted you to go into it blind so you can make your decision.
You don't have to, but whatever.
Well, the end credit scene I want to talk about because
Okay.
that's not a spoiler, but the actual end of the movie is so cheesy, and I cannot wait till you see it so that we can talk about it and your reactions to it. You're going to be like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah. Well, like there's been a lot of things where endings have ruined movies. Like the
I mean,
post-credit
not
scene of
Morbius.
Morbius.
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's a ripoff of Marvel, and it's bad, but it's not that bad. Now, the end credit scene here is it plays off a joke from in the middle of the movie. The two brothers, Orm, he ends up tricking Orm, saying that a cockroach is the shrimp of the land, and he ends up eating it, and he kind of likes it, and he chews the rest of it, and Aquaman's kind of giggling under his breath. The end of the movie, he's kind of banished. They told the realm that he was killed in the battle, saving
Orm?
everybody. Orm was killed
Yeah.
instead of imprisoning him, and he was killed in the battle. And then he's on some harbor town, and he's getting a cheeseburger, and he's eating the cheeseburger because they have this discussion about, you never had a slice of za, you never had a burger.
Right.
I mean, blah 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 blah. So he's getting a burger, and he's really enjoying it. And a cockroach crawls across the table, and he grabs it. He puts it in his burger, and he eats it, and he just gets this big smile on his face. So it's really cheesy, but they had nowhere else to go with the end credit scene.
And again, this movie was going to come out much earlier before the DCU had a pin put in it. They had filmed post-credit scenes already with several of these, featuring Ben Affleck, and the Flash was going to be in it, and Henry Cavill had a post-credit scene,
and they filmed also a scene with the other Batman that was in the Flash.
George Clooney,
not George Clooney.
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
Yeah,
they had another scene for him. So
So
overall, go see it. It's worth seeing. Maybe stream it.
It may be an HBO Max.
Yeah.
When it comes out on HBO Max,
I hear it's doing worse than the Marvels, which said something.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and again, that goes to show you that box office numbers aren't the end all be all about everything, especially this time of year. Look, Christmas Day is typically a very good day to go see movies. I mean, I know your family has a tradition of going and seeing a movie on Christmas Day. A lot of people do that over the holidays, and for this movie not to be doing well, I think is a referendum on a lot of things, but maybe superhero fatigue to some extent. But I think you would rather have seen this movie than the Marvels.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you enjoyed this movie. You had fun with it.
Oh yeah,
even though it didn't do very well in the theater.
Even though Greg Vire's face at the end was like cringeworthy, his cringe face was worth seeing the movie with him.
All right, well, we'll put a pin in that one. I'll definitely check it out. Who knows? Over the next couple of weeks, I may have time. I'll go see it. Maybe it's a matinee or something, and I'll go check it out. All right, I do want to talk about What If Season 2. So we spoke about this on our last episode, and I was really excited about this season for a couple of reasons. One, I really enjoyed the first season. I liked the animation style that they use, and I was interested to see what kind of new stories they were coming up with this season. And the way that they released it made it so enjoyable. Like I was on vacation, and I'd wake up, and be having lunch. I'm like, oh, the new episode of What If is out.
Yeah.
Like every day, I'm like, oh my God, I haven't watched the new one yet. The new one was coming out every day.
Every day. A block of time every night to watch these has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Except for the last two. I've been so busy with New Year's and stuff. So I'm a little behind. I haven't seen the last two. Have you finished it?
I didn't see the finale yet.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the finale next episode, but
perfect.
I've seen everyone up, and I didn't watch the finale is today, and I have not watched today's episode yet.
Which was your favorite one?
The last one, which is the 1602 episode, was absolutely my favorite one. And I do want to talk about each one of these a little bit, because I do think this series, number one, has been awesome.
Yeah.
I think the stories are great. Most, not all, but most of the actors came back to voice their roles.
Yeah.
They had somebody else playing Black Widow. It wasn't Scarlett Johansson. They had somebody else playing Tony Stark.
Yeah.
It wasn't Robert Downey Jr. Chris Evans did not come back to do Captain America. but everybody else
barely in it anyway.
But everybody else came back. Well, who's barely in it?
Captain America.
He's in the last two.
Is he?
Yeah, pretty substantially. So
that was my only criticism of the whole series is Captain Carter like kind of dominates the series.
Yeah.
She's in almost like
she's in a lot
of them.
But in the 1602 episode was pretty much her episode for the most part. She had pretty much 2 episodes in this series.
The Black Widow episode in that one.
Yeah. So what I'll say is, number one, this has been a great season. And I think this is the type of content that Marvel's been missing. And I'll use a good example. If each one of these episodes was made into a live action movie with these characters, I think they would have done well. I think they would have been successful, especially this last one, the 1602 Marvel 1602 episode. They could do a whole movie about that. They could do a whole what if season just for in that time period. And I do want to talk about each one of them because I think they've all been great in their own ways. And I do want to go, and you've seen most of them, so we'll talk through them. But the first one with Nebula joining the Nova Corps, I thought that was a great twist on the kind of, story, her background, and,
I loved it.
Yeah.
Total Blade Runner vibes.
Yeah.
Like a really cool detective, like futuristic detective. I love that. That was a great way to start it off.
The whole integrating the Kree into it with and Nova Prime.
Nova Prime being back. Awesome.
I just thought it was just so well done. And I was like, okay, this is the first one. This is really great.
Yeah.
So I was really happy after the first one. And then the next one was a twist on Peter Quill's background, where instead of the Ravagers picking him up from Earth and keeping him, they actually delivered him to Ego.
Right.
And he comes back to Earth and is wreaking havoc and doing all these, and all the Avengers are fighting against him, which is
a new group of Avengers.
Yeah, kind of different team of Avengers, which is really cool. And then we come to find out he's actually running away from his father, doesn't want to have anything to do with him. And who was it? Was it Cassie Lang?
Yeah.
That like befriends him and kind of helps him escape and all this. I thought it was a great story.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just done so well. And I was like, okay, that was a really good one.
Yeah, I like that one too.
The Happy Hogan Saving Christmas. Again, they pulled some of this straight from the comic books. Happy Hogan did turn into kind of a beast in the comic books called the Freak. And they actually called him the Freak several times in this episode, which I thought was a real callback to his appearance in the comics as the Freak. But the story of him getting these powers from the Hulk blood and, kind of the whole Die Hard situation with Justin Hammer. I thought it was great. It was a great Christmas
episode. Die Hard references were killing me. I thought it was really good. I like this episode a lot too. Definitely a real treat to watch on Christmas. That was kind of fun.
It was great. And all the different Avengers characters kind of, Tony Stark playing Santa Claus and doing. I mean, I just thought
or comes in at the last minute. Where's the party?
Yeah, right.
It was great.
It was really well done.
Very entertaining.
And then the lost episode from last season of Iron Man going to Sakaar. That was really good.
That was cool. That was cool shit. That's kind of had Alina, battle.
Alita, Battle Angel,
Alita kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
With the racing, it also had some Star Wars racing in it.
The pod races.
Yeah. It was really cool. I thought it was great. Very well done. His suit was macked out, which was unbelievable. That was one of my favorite, and you could totally tell that it was supposed to be in the very beginning, like the first one,
because it really didn't tie into anything else.
No.
The next one, the Captain Carter episode, with her and Black Widow fighting against the Hydra Stomper, and again, really cool twist on kind of the Black Widow movie. The Red Room was responsible for turning Steve Rogers into the Winter Soldier. Yeah. And Bucky's old. He survived.
And he's, by the way, the president of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He was the president of the Security Council or whatever. He played Robert Redford's edition, right? But it was Sebastian Stan, voicing his character. And again, the fact that these guys came back to play their characters was really, really cool. But that was a great episode.
Great episode. Probably my least favorite episode, to be honest. If I'm being honest here, probably my least favorite, but still really great. And that's saying a lot because I thought it was great, but my least favorite out of all the other ones.
Well, and then at the end of that episode, Captain Carter gets sucked into some, red hole, and we don't know where she went. And then she ends up, we see Scarlet Witch talking to her, which goes into the 1602 episode, which I won't get into quite yet. But the next one was the brand new character they created, Cohorty. The way that they pronounce it, Cohorty. American Indian character who, and really, again, the explanation of how she got her powers was that the Tesseract actually sank to the bottom of this lake, the Forbidden Lake, and you kind of this whole story of the Spanish conquistadors coming to take over
the Fountain of Youth.
They were looking for the Fountain of Youth. They think they found it.
Yeah.
And anybody who got into this, little pool that was under this mountain, got sucked into some other world, but was imbued with these powers from the Tesseract.
Yeah.
And to find out that she gets these powers and hers are a little bit better than everybody else's for some reason, but maybe because for lots of different reasons. But I just thought, a really cool character, really cool powers, and to find that, she kind of uses them to save her people and go back through the hole to kind of back to her place to kind of save her tribe and everything was really cool. And then end of this episode, Doctor Strange shows up and says, "I've been looking for you," and so I don't know what happens with her because I think that's the finale I haven't watched yet. So we'll find that out. One
of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, that was really cool. But again, goes to show you want to create compelling female superheroes, write great stories with great characters.
Amazing.
And it was really well done.
Yeah. Somebody's saying that, the Predator movie, back in Indian times.
I never saw that.
Oh, it's good.
I never saw that.
Oh, you should watch that. And the actress, her name's like Thunder Rain or something. Yeah. She's the Native American actress who plays the main character in that. She'd be great at this character.
In real life.
In real life. If they did this character, a real movie, which I could see them doing something unbelievable. It would be great. I think it would do Avatar numbers.
Well, and I think we've seen the impact of these characters in live action already with many of them showing up in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Captain Carter was in it. So I don't think it would be weird for us to see this character again
I would love
the
it.
MCU.
Avatar numbers is aggressive, but it would be very
Avatar's 2 of the top 5 highest grossing movies of all time. So,
but it's that kind of vibe. It had that kind of Avatar vibe.
It was really cool.
I liked it a lot.
And then the next episode with Hela, being basically taking the original Thor movie concept.
Can I confess something?
Yes.
This is my favorite episode.
Yeah.
I mean, this was my favorite episode.
And it was Kate Blanchett coming back to play Hela, which was great. And she gets banished to Earth, very similar to how Thor got banished to Earth in the original Thor movie. Gets banished to Earth, her power stripped from her
crown,
and she has to, what did she have to do? She find Mercy, and she ends up finding Wenwu, who has the 10 rings, and then she finds the Kowlun or whatever, and so it was a merger of the original Thor movie and the Shang-Chi movie.
Yes.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And she ends up...
It was really cool.
Becoming completely redeemed.
Hela is a total bitch and a total, evil person, and there's a redemption arc in this. Yeah. And you can see it. Yeah. And you're rooting for her at some point.
And then fighting against Odin and the entire Asgardian army at the end.
The rings.
Wenwu with the rings and everything was just it was great.
It was really good.
It was really good. And at the end, she turns into she gets her helmet back because she found Mercy. She actually could have killed Odin, killed her father. She chose not to. And then her helmet comes back on top of her. She becomes White Hela. And she's instead of the goddess of death, she's the goddess of mercy now or something like that. Yeah.
And her and the 10 rings, Wenwu go out and they start, correcting wrongs.
And they show at the end of the episode her marching into battle with her army against Thanos, who was, taking over Gamora's planet at the time from the end.
What a great twist. I love that.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah,
I mean, it was really well done. And I think we're going to see more of Hela. I mean, maybe in the finale. I don't know yet, but I think it seems like she's going to show up in the finale.
All right, don't ruin 1602 for me.
I have to ruin it a little bit. So this is, and I think this is brilliant, like brilliant on so many levels, because it was stripped from a comic book that Marvel did called Marvel 1602. So they basically took that idea or the concept from so the comic book concept was take all of the superheroes from today and put them in 1602 with their same powers. Everything's the same, but they live in 1602. And so it was a lot of the X-Men. Yeah. And again, this is pre-merger. So in the comic books, the X-Men were in it. You had all the Avengers were in it and everything. And it was a really successful twist on it was like take a what if concept and just make a whole book series on the comic books of this in 1602. And it was just so well done. They could have made this a movie. Almost every Avengers character was in it. Their powers were a little different, I'll say sometimes, but consistent with what you would expect of them. And the ending was great. It was just so well done. And what it reminded me of, and I can't wait for you to watch it, because what it reminded me of is that we love these characters. We know them so well that you can put them in almost anything and we would enjoy watching it. And that's the way I felt.
If they're well written.
That's the way I felt watching this was it's all of these characters that I really enjoy. And again, most of them were voiced by their real life actors. So again, the ones that I mentioned were not, but everybody else was, I mean, the Jon Favreau was Happy Hogan. It was like everybody else was voicing their character. And it reminded me that how much we miss some of these characters that are no longer playing these characters. And if you put these characters together in the right situation, it's magical. Yeah. And agreed. I think these solo movies we've seen recently, specifically Thor: Love and Thunder, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, these solo movies have suffered somewhat because all this team building and bonding and character development you created with these characters with all these team movies is lost in those solo films. And a good example of that was why Ragnarok was so successful, because it was Thor and Mark Ruffalo and the Hulk with each other and playing on their relationship that made it successful, introducing a new character in Valkyrie and all these other things. And Loki was in the movie, obviously, and all these other things that made it successful. But when you put him in his own movie without those characters,
a little different,
he suffered. Yeah. And this episode made me realize how much I enjoyed watching these characters interact with each other, even when they're on opposite sides, which for a period of this episode, they are. And it just was such a good story. And I'm like, man, they could make this a movie, or they could do a whole series on this. And I hope they go back to this universe in season 3, because it was so well done. So anyway, you'll really love it. Awesome. Literally, you need to watch it. It's fantastic.
The last episode, the finale, we will cover in our next podcast.
Right. And they do allude to the finale in this episode. I'm not giving anything away by saying at the end of the episode, Strange portals in and tells Captain Carter, she's like, "Oh my God, Steven," because they remember each other from last year. And she's like, "Oh my God, it's so strange to see you here." And he's like, "I came here for a reason and I need your assistance." Right. And the other big thing in this episode was that Captain Carter could hear the Watcher, which was another kind of twist. Ooh. So his narration that he's doing, he's narrating
like Ultron did in the last season finale.
Right. But he's narrating at one point in time and she's like, "I can hear you." And he's like, "You can?" And she's like, yeah. And he goes, "Ooh, that must be because of our connection," or something like that. And Captain Carter plays a big role this whole season, but I have thoroughly enjoyed this season. I thought it's been awesome. And the way they released it, one every day for 9 straight days, has been fantastic. It just, again, proves to me that Marvel does have creative minds. They do have good writers. They obviously have a great team of animators because this animation has been off the charts great. And if they continue with writing good stories, people will watch. And I think this has been really successful.
Yeah,
and
agree.
And I'm glad they're getting to season 3. I think it's great to put these little twists on these stories and make these things. It's fantastic.
Yeah, elevate these writers, please. Yeah. Elevate them.
Yeah.
All right, sir, let's go. I'm trying to get to a Caps game.
All right. Just a few news items, not too much to talk through. So we spoke last episode at length about the dismissal of Jonathan Majors as the Kang character, and there were rumors that they were going to be moving away from Kang, potentially towards Doctor Doom or some other character, renamed Avengers 5 or stripped the Kang Dynasty name from Avengers 5, and they're not really sure what direction they're going in now. As this story has developed, it seems more likely now that they are sticking with the recast of the Kang character, which I know surprises you and I, and who they get to play the character and what reason that person might have for playing the character, maybe, unknown to us at the moment. But
well, we kind of touched it based on this. We touched a little bit on this the last episode when we talked about different scenarios. Eliminate it completely, go with Doom, go with another variant, like we talked about the Beyonder, who's very important to.
I think that's the direction they're moving in.
It sounds like it, yeah.
So it looks like they're going to introduce this variant of Kang, the Beyonder variant of Kang, maybe earlier than we thought. And that may play into their Secret War plans, which would be fine by me. And again, I think
here's my problem with that, though, Professor. The Beyonder. You and I know him very well. You and I know the background and who he is and what he is and the variant.
I don't think that's going to be a problem.
I think it will be.
No, because I think the
novice. I think the novice person out there is going to be like, they couldn't grasp Kang. How are they going to grasp?
I think what they're going to do, they're going to use Avenger 5 to set it up.
Okay.
I think that's why I say I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's not going to be, and I think it would have been a problem. And I think that what they were trying to do was establish this Council of Kangs and have this movie where the Avengers and everybody else fights against the Council of Kangs and loses, and then one of the Kangs ends up being the victor of this multiverse war. It ends up becoming the Beyonder, and then they end up having this secret war. I think that would have been just weird. I think now they're going to use this Avengers 5 film, whatever they're going to call it now, whether it's Secret War Part 1 or whatever it is, as a way to set up the Beyonder character.
Introduce the Beyonder at Deadpool 3. I think that's a home run because that's going to get a lot of eyes. Could happen.
Yeah, could happen. So we'll see. But there's been some exciting, and I don't want to call it speculation because there is some. These industry insiders are plugged in and they are hearing things directly from the studios. But this one rumor is incredibly exciting to me. You and I've talked at length. We know Marvel plans to bring the X-Men into the MCU at some point in time, big time. And we've talked about this at length that they haven't been able to do that yet because of this potential contractual restriction they had with the current Fox actors that played those characters,
right,
that they couldn't recast those characters until after 2024.
Right.
So we heard this, which is one of the reasons why that's who we're going to see in Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
Well, all of these delays that have been brought on because of the writer's strike and the actor's strike have now pushed all these projects beyond 2024, so they don't have those restrictions anymore.
Okay.
So they can do these movies or bring these characters in or recast these characters much sooner than they may have originally planned because they weren't fighting against the same timeline.
Right.
So one of these rumors that's out there now is that Avengers 5 may be Avengers versus X-Men, which would blow me away and could potentially be the setup to the Secret Wars movie, right? Where they're having some conflict between the Avengers and X-Men, and then it ends up, destroying the 616 universe, and they go off to Battleworld and do this other thing. The other part of this rumor, which is really exciting, is that Marvel may be accelerating their plans to bring the X-Men into the MCU before the end of Phase 6 instead of after. So we always thought, or we've been told, that the next we're in the multiverse saga now, but the next saga is going to be the mutant saga.
Yeah.
Well, there's now talk that they're going to start accelerating that into this current plan because it fits into Secret War, and they want those characters in Secret Wars. And so they're talking about doing a standalone X-Men movie or the Avengers versus X-Men, as I mentioned. They're talking about doing a Brotherhood of Evil Mutants movie.
Okay.
They're talking about doing an Excalibur series on Disney Plus.
Black Knight, I would love that.
Which would be kind of British. So if you're not familiar with the Excalibur comic book, it was basically one of these X-Men offshoot comics that they created based in Britain. It featured Captain Britain, who happens to be Psylocke's brother, his wife at the time, Megan, who has her own powers. It was Kitty Pryde. It was Nightcrawler. It was a really good comic book. And they're talking about bringing the Black Knight into this team, which would just be so smart and exciting. And if they do a Disney Plus series about it, I would and again, a way to kind of slowly introduce mutant characters into the MCU would just be so cool. So anyway, I just thought that would be really, really neat. And the Black Knight would be part of it, which again, I mean, they've had Kit Harington sitting on the bench. Right? Again,
that's my biggest problem with Marvel right now is they have all these huge actors, great characters, really in-depth characters.
I would say Emilia Clarke's character is a big character.
That's a problem. We'll talk about that at the end. But on the bench, and Norrin Radd, you don't put Silver Surfer on the bench when you're struggling. Bring him into the game.
Yeah, well, and here's some positive news from Marvel, or potential positive news. It sounds like everything you and I have been talking about for months about developing a Midnight Suns project is actually happening.
Let's fucking go. Let's go.
It sounds like they are in the early stages of developing a Midnight Suns movie. We've talked about this before. Story centered around Lilith, and Lilith being an incredible threat to the world. And this group of supernatural superheroes has to come together to fight against her.
Yeah.
And it looks like this would include the return of the Scarlet Witch character.
Ooh.
And we've teased this before that we believe she's not dead, and we have a reason to believe Elizabeth Olsen is coming back and potentially going to be in future projects, not only Secret Wars, but other things.
Hopefully we'll find out in Agatha. Hopefully they tease in Agatha.
A teaser supposedly in Agatha that's going to tease her potential return. And then there's this Witch's Road special presentation that's coming after Agatha that may have some indications of her coming back. But Midnight Suns makes all the sense.
It sure does. So you've been saying that forever.
The roster would include Wong leading the Midnight Suns.
I like that.
Which would be really cool. Hey, you don't need Benedict Cumberbatch and Doctor Strange. Use Wong.
Right.
And have him be like the leader of the team. That would be awesome. Blade, which this would come after the Blade movie comes out, obviously. Scarlet Witch, Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, Man-Thing, and Elsa Bloodstone, all from the Werewolf by Night special presentation.
That'd be awesome.
I would just be so cool.
It would really be cool.
I know. I mean, and again, maybe we find out some stuff about this in
Agatha
in July.
Ooh, that'd be at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's early.
So that'd be great. A lot of these rumors get me excited about July because I have a feeling we're not going to hear or see much until then.
Yeah.
From Marvel, and I think that'll be a big announcement thing. One sad news I did want to talk about Fantastic Four. So their internet insider Daniel Rickman reported that the casting announcement is not close. They're still trying to. They still don't have a cast nailed down. They were originally scheduled to begin production on this movie in January.
Yeah.
And that is not happening now, likely pushed to the spring. Now, the director, Matt Shakman, has said previously that they were planning on beginning filming in the spring. So that kind of fits with his timeline. But the studio did have a production date on the calendar for January. And now this has officially been pushed out of January. Look, obviously there's stuff going on there that we have no idea what's going on. But they will make an announcement before they begin filming because they cannot have these set photos leak on the internet with
Oh, before that, it'll
Yeah.
leak. Yeah, it'll leak before that. They'll make an announcement, hopefully in July.
Well, I think it'll
That'd
be
be
before
awesome.
that. I no, I'm saying if they're going to start filming this movie in the spring, it'll be way before July. So they'll have to make that announcement before they start filming because the set photos will leak out while they're filming. So
Yeah.
they have to make that announcement before they start production. So
We'll see.
yeah, we'll see. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into our topic of the week this week. Brought to us by our friends over Studio GG Studios. Studio G, Happy New Year, and thank you for all your support.
Happy New Year.
All
Happy New Year,
2023.
boys. Thank you.
So we want to do a quick 2023 year in review and talk about some of the best and worst things about this year. I'd say overall, this has been a down year in a lot of different ways for a lot of different reasons, which we'll get into. There have been some bright spots,
Sure,
which we'll discuss. But overall, this year's been a down year in regard to major motion pictures, especially, and some of the TV series totally did not hit the mark. So I wanted to talk about the highlights and the lowlights and maybe a small discussion about the stuff in between. Of the movies that came out in 2023, what was your favorite?
Guardians.
Volume 3.
Volume 3. Guardians Volume 3 has to be my favorite, yeah.
I think that was the best MCU movie by far. There were only 3, and so, there's only 2 others to pick from, and the other 2 were pretty big stinkers.
What was yours?
I think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse
I had that at number 2.
Was not the best movie of the year. I just think that the concept, the product, the writing, the animation, the story, it was just so well done.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see the sequel.
Oh, I can't either.
And that just goes, the original was one of my favorite Spider-Man movies. This movie delivered on that same success, and I can't wait to see the next one.
Yeah.
I just think it was so well done. And look, Sony they just knew what they had on their hands with the first one, and they're like, yeah, we need to double down on it. And they did. I mean, they delivered. I mean, all the variants and everything else, it was just so crazy. It was awesome.
It was really good. I have it at number 2 for my leading the best of 2023, but Guardians of the Galaxy was such a great, icing on the cake. I mean, the world that he built and the characters that he developed.
And a compelling villain.
Compelling villain that was menacing, and you could see him going further and on and on and on. I just thought it was great, man. I really liked it. In live action, in my opinion, it's very hard to outdo a movie that's really good from a unbelievable animation film. I see them still as kind of level.
Guardians 3 was really good. I mean, obviously the best MCU movie. It was really good.
Yeah. I
think the one thing both you and I were mostly disappointed about was nobody died.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an incredibly successful send-off to this franchise, and James Gunn leading this franchise, which he did. My whole family watched the original Guardians last night for me for like the umpteenth time. But my son's girlfriend's in town, and she'd never seen it. And I'm like,
what?
And my wife and I were like, you've never seen Guardians?
Yeah.
She's like, no. And then at the end of it, she was like, that was like a 9 out of 10. I'm like, yeah.
Oh,
the original Guardians.
I was making references to 16 Candles last night, and my daughter's friend Kendall, Greg Vier's daughter, has never seen it. And I was like, oh man, we have failed as parents.
I know. But anyway, yeah, I think both of those are worthy candidates.
Yeah.
And we're splitting hairs there. Again, not a lot of great to choose from either.
What was your worst movie? Oh, you have to think about it?
Well,
are you for real?
I do for a couple of reasons. So obviously the worst movie is The Marvels. I think we're going to be in agreement there that was easily the worst movie of the year. A very close second to me is The Flash.
Wow.
I was so mad because I love that character so much.
You're right.
And
you have a special compartment in your heart that has a thunderbolt in it. It is the Flash.
I love that character so much.
Yeah.
And their treatment of the character and Ezra Miller's portrayal of the character.
I get it.
And the animation was just the special effects was horrible.
The VFX,
VFX horrible.
Yeah.
And it was so bad.
Yeah.
And just the post-credit scenes and everything was so bad, it made me angry. Like, the Marvels didn't make me angry because I had no expectations and I expected it to be bad, and it lived up to my expectations, and I was disappointed in Marvel, but not in the Marvels.
Yeah. I
was mad about what DC did to the Flash.
Okay.
And that was a very close second to me.
I got it. Okay. Mine was definitely the Marvels. A
movie that should have never been made.
Agree. I agree. Not with that not with that actor. I absolutely agree. What's down there for me as well is by the way, I have Aquaman 2 above the Flash.
Oh, you better.
Yeah, absolutely.
How could you not? Yeah.
But what's down there for me too is Shazam, Fury of the Gods.
I don't know, dude. I enjoyed that movie. I thought it was entertaining.
You're entertaining.
Right. The two daughters of Atlas who are the villains, not very good.
Just for me personally, a compelling villain is everything.
But look, I like Zachary Levi. I like his portrayal of the character. I like the Shazam family. I like that better than Quantumania.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Quantumania was so bad.
Oh, no.
So bad.
No. Paul Rudd. I mean, just
again, there's a special place in your heart, and it's got Paul Rudd tattooed on it.
Agree, but I mean, Zachary Levi was more of a child than the kid that played Billy Baxton. He acted more immature than the kid did.
Yeah.
So that kind of irritated me. We could go on and on and on.
And again, I think that was that movie was already filmed. It was kind of pre-planned, and it just ended up being made. I had no expectations for that movie, and I was entertained. I had a high expectations for Quantumania, and I was disappointed.
Yeah.
And in so many different ways.
What about TV shows? Let's get into something simpler.
All right. So the best one for me, I think is a quite obvious one, is Gen V. I mean, I think Amazon has hit a massive home run with their adaptation of this comic book universe, and the ability to create a brand new universe with a brand new set of characters and a brand new story that wasn't in the comic books based on the universe that they adapted from the comic books was just brilliant. And I can't wait to see what they do with these characters, and I can't wait to see where their series goes. And we're looking forward to The Boys season 4. I just think Gen V was just such a home run in so many ways. And I have a feeling I know what you're going to say. I'm not taking away from Loki season 2, which I thought was also really well done.
Yeah.
But I thought Gen V was just such a pleasant surprise at the right time. We needed something good.
Yeah.
And it was really good.
It was really good. I agree with you. I have Loki as my number one for the year. Gen V is up there, but for some Loki, the nostalgia of it, the closing out of his story, the character
Tom Hiddleston,
hit
a home run,
absolutely.
Owen Wilson,
super creative, really.
The story was creative.
Storyline.
Yeah,
I really liked it, even though Kang was in it and kind of wonky. Now that we know, it wasn't
again.
He wasn't as bad as Quantumania.
No.
So right, yeah. Wasn't portrayed as bad as Quantumania. So Loki season 2 was definitely my favorite. And What If is up there too with Gen V.
What If is
damn good.
Slowly climbed. In my, I actually put it on the list, and I was like, wow, I don't know. I kind of enjoyed that one too. But I mean, Gen V was just
good.
I mean, just
it's up there.
Some of those scenes.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
what's your worst?
I think for multiple reasons, Secret Invasion was my least favorite television series of the year. I just think early on the story was okay, and I kind of was into kind of the spy thriller kind of side of things, and I love Samuel L. Jackson. I think his portrayal of Nick Fury is one of the best characters in all of the MCU, and I was really rooting for it to be good. But their adaptation of this Secret Invasion storyline from the comics was
in the Super Scroll, the
lackluster, and the finale ruined it.
Yeah,
ruined the series.
It's my least favorite.
Made the most powerful superhero character in the universe in the finale of a series that nobody watched. And if we never see that character ever again, I would not be upset.
Not at all. Like she could disappear and no one would care less. So yeah, it's my worst favorite too.
Yeah, I just think they missed an opportunity. And again, when you got Samuel Jackson leading a series, and again, it started off strong.
Yeah.
With, the kind of the Skrull undertones and, finding that, some of the characters we know and love were Skrulls the whole time. It's like, Rhodey was a Skrull.
Yeah.
And Everett Ross was a Skrull, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna. And then they didn't explain any of it, and they didn't,
They had me hooked to tune in to see who's a Skrull, who wasn't a Skrull. Where is this story going on? And then they jumped the shark in the finale.
Oh my god!
And it ruined it.
It was so bad.
It's like Morbius. If you take out the end credit scenes,
right,
it's not that bad.
Right. No, I like that movie.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's those end credit scenes that leave us such. And this,
that's a great example of them, like you said, jumping the shark, leading up to a crescendo, and then leaving the audience completely disappointed with the ending.
It's like they switched writers. It's like, all right, you guys that are writing this, leave. We're going to bring in a whole new. What's your finale?
Or they rushed it. They were like, okay, we need to look. We're spending way too much money here, which they did. One of the least financially successful Disney Plus projects ever. I mean, they spent $100 million on this thing. It was like ridiculous. And they were like, we have no more money. Can we just come to can we need just end this? Right. And like the finale was just like
awful.
Oh, so bad.
Yeah.
So you agree on that one?
Absolutely.
I do want to kind of touch on a couple of the other ones, just quickly, briefly mention some of them. We talked about the DC kind of end of the DCEU. We've got 3 movies from them this year, all of them not very good. All of them disconnected with no future, really kind of took a lot away from every one of those movies. I thought was just a big disappointment. I think, the Marvels was just so bad. Really not much else to say about it. I mean, it was just so bad. We did have the end of the Titans and all of kind of the old school kind of series that were on HBO Max, which I thought were good. And
when did Blue Beetle come out?
That was this year too, so that was August.
Okay.
I thought that was okay.
Yeah,
it was entertaining.
It was entertaining.
Yeah, it was entertaining.
It's not up there.
No,
top movie.
I mean, it's been out on HBO Max now for.
I watched it again,
like a month. Yeah, I have not yet, but I was like, I'll watch it someday. But it wasn't like, my son was
same things that irritated me when I first saw it still do. By the way,
right, right.
So
yes, but I think this year overall, again, we've talked about Marvel needs to get right. They need to do some. It sounds like they are doing some serious introspection and fixing things.
We'll see.
Yeah, and again, we will see. And I am. Look, I'm super excited about Comic-Con this year. Number one, because we're going.
Yeah.
But number two, because I think it's so important for them to get us excited about what they're doing again.
Agree.
And I think they're going to do that.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
July, we got Deadpool 3 coming out.
May.
May. I'm sorry, May.
Yeah.
So that'll be.
I think that is the most important movie in the MCU's history. If they get it wrong, they're in a lot of trouble.
And it's a great barometer to see if, in fact, there is superhero fatigue.
I don't know. Ryan Reynolds is just such a draw.
If, in fact,
and Hugh Jackman,
all these hack writers, all these insiders, all these wannabes, all these Hollywood shills, if they say superhero fatigue after this movie is wrong, if it does as well as I think it's going to do. Now, if it bombs, if it just barely scrapes the surface, then I will say superhero fatigue is a real thing.
Here's the thing they got going for them. And I think they have several things going for them. One, there will have been a 6-month delay between the last Marvel movie and this movie.
Agree. Yeah.
Okay. They got that going for them. So the fatigue will kind of have been, they have no other movies coming out this next year.
Right.
0.
Yeah.
All of the hype is going to be put behind this movie. All of the marketing, and they're going to get everybody so jazzed for this. They got Ryan Reynolds and his team of writers writing it.
Oh, yeah.
So they're in charge of the content.
Great.
Right?
Right way to go. Hugh Jackman.
And all of the other potential ancillary cameo characters we're going to have in this movie, which, I mean, they've got everything going for them. If they get it wrong, wow.
Yeah.
We're in a lot of trouble.
All right.
We'll say Marvel's in a lot of trouble. But I have a feeling it's gonna make people excited.
Me too.
Yeah. All right.
Well, great. All right, sir.
What else are you before we go? What else are you looking forward to in 2024?
I'll say it. Kraven the Hunter.
You are looking forward.
I'm looking forward to that because I think it's going to be rated R. It's going to be a little brutal. Madam Web, no thanks.
No. I'm concerned about Kraven because of the trailer that we saw and the anti-hero kind of thing that they're trying to do.
That's a huge problem.
That's
a huge problem. And also just from the blood of a lion, he gets these powers. They got to fix that. But anticipating that Rhino might be in it and how they handle that. I need another trailer. I need more.
And I think we'll get one.
I hope so.
And rumors are
but if they make him an animal activist, I will lose it.
He's a hunter.
He is a bad guy.
He's a big game hunter. Right.
If they make him an animal activist, I will absolutely lose it.
And that's why I agree with you. I think I need to see another trailer before I get excited for that movie. I'm really trepidatious about what they may do with that character and what they're doing.
What are you excited for besides Deadpool?
I think we have again, Deadpool's the easy answer there. And I think we might get a trailer for Deadpool, by the way, for the Super Bowl.
Is the second Spider-Man movie coming out next year?
Beyond the Spider-Verse, I do believe comes out in late summer, like August, September.
Okay, that's the movie then.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously would be looking forward to that too. I think some of the projects that Marvel has planned for Disney Plus this year could be successful if they're done right. I want to see X-Men 97. I'm really excited about that.
Do you think Echo's the sleeper?
No.
I
think it's going to be exactly what we think it's going to be.
Okay.
The latest like behind the scenes thing that they came out with, I think they're trying to make it more than it is.
They're making it look like a Daredevil film,
right.
like a Daredevil show.
I think it's going to be hardcore.
Yeah.
I think but again, is this a character I'm really excited to have her own series? No. But we'll see what ends up coming of it. Agatha, I'm not really sure about, so we'll see. But look, Madam Web might end up being a sleeper.
No,
I know it might.
No,
it might.
Negative.
Okay.
What else is out there? Sony's got a couple coming out. They have Kraven, Madam Web, and one more. Oh, Venom 3.
Yeah, we haven't heard or seen anything about that. And that's supposed to come out by the end of the year, and we'll see. So again, I think we're going to get our first Deadpool trailer for the Super Bowl. And can you imagine? I mean,
a Super Bowl trailer?
I know you and I usually watch Super Bowl together. We'll be like, quiet.
Yeah,
quiet on the set. And then we're going to go off into another room and watch the full trailer online.
Yeah, I'm going to say, oh, the house behind me is on fire. Everybody outside. And then rewind it. And then what's really going to piss people off is I'm going to rewind it and watch it several times, or I'm going to put it on the internet and watch it over. And
it'll be fun. It'll be a good year. We'll see. But look, we've got a 2-year anniversary show coming up here soon too. So,
by the way, I was at a little get together last night with all the college kids. That our Guapo crowd is begging us to do it.
Oh yeah, of course they are. And the Guapo crowd's begging for us to do another live show so we can buy them drinks all day.
And Howard Robinson has a inn on a brewery that is more than willing to have us do it this summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll definitely do another.
Stay tuned. This is in the works.
Yeah.
We're working out some kind of live. So great show, Professor. Let's ring the bell. School's over.
All right. Well, that's it for us this week. We'll be back next year for more Super Talk. Yeah. To get in touch with us on social media, hit us up via email, supertalkpodcast@outlook.com or @supertalkpod on Twitter. Until then, stay super, everyone.
Corner on the top of the man.